Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about my wedding. If you didn't know, I got married in April of 2022, and I didn't tell y'all in advance like when exactly I was getting married, which elicited a lot of questions from y'all all about the wedding planning process and everything that went into the wedding that I showed you on Instagram in pictures, and a couple in, I think, one of my wrap-ups. But today I decided that I would sit down and answer all of those questions that y'all had for me on Instagram. I did answer additional questions over on Instagram if you want to go check those out. I think they're on a story highlight, but today in this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the nitty-gritty details of the wedding. It's probably going to be chatty. It's probably going to be self-indulgent. I'm excited to do it because my wedding was beautiful in my eyes. I loved it. And maybe this can help you if you're trying to plan a wedding, especially if you're trying to plan a wedding in the Austin area. So first, let me give you a little bit of background on my wedding and the details, I guess, before we get into the questions. I think that might help kind of guide us for some context. So my wedding was April 23rd, 2022. We got engaged September of 2019. So we were engaged for nearly 2.5 years. The pandemic had a lot to do with that, but we also knew we wanted ample time to plan the wedding, especially as my parents were out of state when we got engaged. I knew that my mom would likely have a lot of say in my wedding. I knew she wanted to help with the planning process. I knew she would have a lot of strong opinions, and I respect those opinions. But since she was out of state, I ended up hiring a wedding planner, and my wedding planner helped so much. I hired a planner, but I ended up getting a team of people to help coordinate like the wedding of my dreams. I'll leave a link to my planner in the description down below, along with all of my other vendors. But Ashley, I love you so much. Ashley's planning company is called Ashley Nicole Affair, and if you're in the Austin area and looking for a good wedding planner or coordinator, you really need to check Ashley out. So that's a little bit of background on like planning process. Now, in terms of the day of the wedding, I'll give you a quick rundown on kind of my vision and what it looked like and where it was. It was at Villa Antonia, which is west of Austin and north of Lake Travis, and it is kind of in the start of the Texas Hill Country. So the wedding venue itself is on a really tall hill. It overlooks all of the hill country parts of Austin, and it has a very like Tuscan, European inspired feel, which I really wanted. I knew from the beginning that I wanted this sort of vibe to my wedding. I wanted it to be a mix of like glamour and also earthiness, and I felt like an old world kind of European venue would really suit kind of both sides of my style pretty well. So I went with Villa Antonia. I did a lot of greenery and a lot of white and gold for my color scheme. My bridesmaid dresses were kind of a nude color. That's pretty much it in terms of like the day of. It was a pretty traditional wedding in that we had a ceremony and reception at the same venue, and yeah, I think that pretty much covers like the basics, but let's go ahead and dive into the questions and hopefully I can answer anything that I left out, which I'm sure is a lot. So I'm going to put timestamps in the description, and obviously you'll see them in the video for different categories of questions. So if you want to skip around, you can, but the first category is going to be questions about planning and just like general questions. One thing you regret or would change about the day, and I hate to sound cliche, but I really found the day to be exactly what I wanted it to be. I think because I didn't go into my wedding day with grand expectations, and I wasn't the type to like have planned a wedding from elementary school, you know what I mean? I didn't like dream of my wedding from a really young age. I think I went into the wedding with appropriate expectations. It was beautiful, it was romantic, it was everything that I wanted it to be, but at the end of the day, it is just one day. So I feel like I didn't regret anything. I wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe I would have slowed down and tried to appreciate it just a little bit more. I was lucky in that I did, again, have a planner. Everything went really smoothly, and every event of the day kind of like went well into the next. Like I didn't worry about if the wedding was going to go as planned, but I do wish that I still would have like taken more time to just appreciate the small moments. So I don't regret anything, but I do wish that I had done that a little bit more. Is there anything that you paid for that you think isn't necessary? If I could have gone back, I think I honestly would have not done cake. I would have done like cheaper desserts. I'm not a super big cake girl, and I know Haden isn't super into cake either. I know it's really traditional, but like that was one thing I didn't care much about. My mom was really insistent, which is why we went with cake, but I probably wouldn't have done cake. Also, a getaway car was something that I didn't really feel like we needed. It was really pretty in the video and the pictures, but like not necessary at all. But other than that, I don't really regret the things we paid for. The next two questions I guess kind of go together. How much time went into planning your wedding, and how stressful was planning on a scale of 1 to 10? So we started in September of 2020 planning the wedding. I got engaged in 2019. We started planning in September of 2020, and I didn't get married until April 2022. So we had a lot of time to plan, and at the very beginning, I was booking a lot of the more important vendors, like my planner, like the photographer, like the venue, but I didn't have to sit there and like wade through a lot of vendors early on because I knew for the most part what sorts of vendors I wanted for those big things. Later on, I think it took more time. I would say early 2022, late 2021, I was spending a couple of hours a week on wedding planning. I wasn't like just breaking my back trying to plan this. I did have a planner help me, and that was, again, really, really nice. So I didn't spend that much time planning the wedding. I also don't know if I could quantify it because it happened over such a long period of time. And then in terms of stress, I can only really remember one time that I was truly stressed when planning, and I think that was with a vendor and a service that I didn't think about until the last minute. And so that was definitely on me. I didn't bring up to my planner like, hey, this is something that I want for my wedding. So she couldn't have known that that was something that like I was interested in. And whenever I was trying to get quotes and be able to like book someone who did what I wanted, that was a little bit stressful because I was like very insistent on certain details. I wouldn't say the rest of the planning process was particularly stressful. If you plan early in advance, you'll be able to get the vendors you want, and you'll be able to get the best prices on things as well. Another planning related question, what did you do yourself versus what did your planner do? So I think it varies planner to planner, like what they're going to help you with. So definitely you want to interview your planner ahead of time and make sure that they are going to provide the sorts of service that you need. My planner did a really good job at basically breaking down my budget, figuring out how much money I needed for certain parts of my wedding, again, based on what I prioritized. And then she found vendors in particular categories that she had vetted and knew well and presented those to me at various different price points. So it was like, here are 5 different photographers at various price points with the kinds of look that you want. Which of these do you want to talk to? We'll narrow it down, and then you can talk to them, and then we'll book someone. That was sort of the process. So I did have a say in literally everything, but I didn't have to wade through the Knot or those other like review websites to try to find someone. Because even then, reviews can be really hit or miss. Some people can have 5 stars and then they can let you down the day of. So I really relied on my planner, who's been in the industry for quite a while, to let me know what vendors worked well. When it came to like how we really like divided and conquered, or like who worked on what, I don't really have like a firm divide, and I was really lucky in that my planner was available all the time. So if I ever had a question or needed help with something, I could text her and she would reply like within 5 minutes. So that was super helpful, and I could not have done it without her, to be honest. How did you pick a planner, and do I think it's necessary? So I think a wedding planner, if you can afford it, is really, really nice to have. I didn't want to have to do all of this on my own while doing YouTube, while having a full-time job. It just would have been too much for me personally, but you obviously have to weigh that against like your needs and what you desire. At the very least, I think a month of or day of coordinator is really nice, because on the day of your wedding, you do not want to have to be running around figuring out if your vendors have shown up and like if they are in the right place, etc. So I do think a wedding planner is really, really nice to have. Definitely not a necessity, but like very, very nice to have. And how did I pick one? I personally looked on one of those review websites like the Knot. I narrowed it down based on like the amount of dollar signs next to their name. I wanted someone who was like reasonably priced. I interviewed, or I like contacted, reached out to 3 different wedding planners. And when I tell you there is a lot of variety, I mean it. One of the people I talked to basically made it sound like I was crazy if I didn't have $100,000 to spend on a wedding. She was like very insistent that like she only worked with clients that spent that much money, and I was just like, I don't want to work with you. So you definitely want to interview people before you book. Be sure that you can get them on the phone and just hear their voice and like understand them, if that makes sense. Ashley is great in correspondence, but even better on the phone. And whenever I got her on the phone, I was like, okay, she gets it. She knows what she's doing. She is going to be there for me. And I got good vibes. So make sure that you get good vibes for your wedding planner if you go with one, and really with any vendor if you can. Like take the time to get on the phone with them. I know in today's society, email is the way of the future, so it's like text and whatever. But hop on the phone with a vendor if you can, because it makes a difference. And the last question was, did you ever consider having a small wedding? And the answer is absolutely. I, for many years, thought I'm going to elope. Like there's no way that I could ever afford a wedding. And you know, weddings are really expensive, but I knew culturally that it was important to me to have a big wedding. I come from a really large Catholic family. It's just how things are done. And I know in other cultures too, it is important to have a big wedding. It's almost like disrespectful not to have a big wedding. I do like that there's pushback from a lot of people now, and a lot of people aren't buying into that, and like, you know, they're having small weddings and eloping anyway, and I think that's awesome. But when it came down to it, I just felt like it was important to have my extended family there, and looking back, I don't think I would have done it any differently, which is really good to say, because I was curious, like, after the wedding's all said and done, will I feel good about having spent this money doing the big wedding thing? But ultimately, like, yes, I am glad that I did it, and I think eloping would have been great. I would have gotten good pictures. Like, honestly, when you've been with someone as long as I've been with Haden, your priorities are just getting in a cute wedding dress and taking pictures, because like we've got the marriage thing down, right? Like we've been together for this long. But yeah, while we considered a small wedding, when it came down to it, I'm glad that we went the big wedding route. Next category of questions is sort of day of related questions, like did you cry the day of, that sort of thing. The first question is, what was your experience like walking down the aisle? So surprisingly, I did not cry, which, like I said, is kind of a surprise. Anytime I thought about it leading up until the day, I was like, I'm gonna cry walking down the aisle. I could just feel it. Even if I do a first look, which we did do, which is, if you didn't know, when you take pictures with your groom before the wedding. Even though we were gonna do a first look, I had a feeling I would cry walking down the aisle. I didn't. I did cry during the ceremony, however, which was kind of an inopportune time to cry because the wind was just insane. But no, I didn't cry walking down the aisle. I don't think this is one of the questions, but I will answer it here. I walked down the aisle to At Last by Etta James, and we had a string quartet playing that. I'll leave a link in the description to a string version of this song, so you can listen to it if you're looking for a song to walk down the aisle to. The opening notes are stunning. Yeah, anytime I just thought about walking down the aisle to that song, I was like, I'm going to cry. And Haden actually helped me pick out the song, which I thought was really special. But no, I didn't cry walking down the aisle, but had a good experience walking down the aisle. I smiled. I walked with my dad, who is my best friend, so that was really special. It was really cool too, getting to like look at all of my friends and family. Like, it was definitely special and something that, like, I mean, you'll never get all of the people that you love in one place again, unless it's gonna be for a funeral, as morbid as that sounds. So yeah, it was like very surreal and really amazing. I didn't cry, but it was really amazing. I'm realizing I answered the cry question before anyone asked, but no, I didn't cry. Walking down the aisle, I did cry during the ceremony. Did you do the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue thing? I did. I had a strip of my deceased maternal grandmother's wedding dress tied around my bouquet, which was really special to me. So that was my something borrowed and something old. And then my new and blue were my shoes, which were white flats with blue crystal buckles. What was my first dance song? It was Best Part by Daniel Caesar and Her. And it was really sweet, despite the fact that I couldn't lift my arms very high. I had an off-the-shoulder wedding dress, and it provided a challenge for a lot of the day, but we'll discuss that later. Next up, how was the food and the cake? Both were fantastic from what I had of them. One of the questions, or like one of the things I feel like that you hear so often with weddings is, you're never gonna eat your food, like don't even worry about the food. It's kind of true. I had 2 bites of the chicken and I had 1 bite of cake. I don't think Haden had any of the cake. We did sample the cake, obviously, before the wedding day. Maybe going back to that bakery and getting a slice of our wedding cake flavor for like an anniversary would be really sweet. We didn't save the top to like freeze, because ew. But the food and the cake was great. We didn't eat much of it because we were just so busy talking to people. Is there anything you forgot the day of? Did end up forgetting the strip of fabric from my grandmother's wedding dress to go around my bouquet. So my dad had to go to my house and retrieve it. Thankfully, we're not that far from our venue, so it wasn't a big deal, but I felt pretty bad that I made him go back to the house. Next question are ring related questions. There's just 2 of them, so this will be a short section. Where are your wedding rings from? Wow, I keep jumbling that in my mouth. My engagement ring is from East West Gem Company. I think it's like a 3-carat moissanite on a yellow gold band. I love it. I didn't want a diamond. I asked Haden specifically not to give me a diamond just because of, I don't know, price. I wanted to buy a house. Honestly, if I had a diamond of this size, I would not have a house. And then I have a band, I want to say from Zoe Lev, but I don't think they make this band anymore. When I looked on the website, I couldn't find it. It was a 24th birthday present from Haden, and I decided to resize it and make it into a wedding band because I got it in my head that it would be really cool to have a wedding band with 11 diamonds, which would be the amount of years we were together before our wedding. And I realized that the band I already had 11 diamonds in it. So I decided to just resize it and go with what I had. Also, I guess something old and new. It has since lost a diamond, I think, from bumping up against my large moissanite stone, so I need to get it retooled in some way to kind of like flush fit around my engagement ring, but yeah, that's where I got those rings from. Haden's ring I got from Etsy, but I don't recommend the seller. I don't think they did a particularly good job. It was cheap. Definitely shows that it's cheap, if that makes sense. It was 14 karat gold. It is a 5mm mill grain detail band, and I did get it engraved. That was the next question. Do you have any engravings on your rings? I don't have any because, I mean, these are really skinny bands, and so, you know, there's no room for engraving. Haden's ring I did get engraved with a special message, shall we say, with his nickname that I call him that I do not make public. Next up are going to be dress questions, which I'm so excited about because I loved my wedding dress. It was one of my favorite parts of my big day. First question is, where did you get your dress? I got my dress, I want to say at Blush Bridal Boutique. I'll leave a link in the description to their shop. They had an enormous range of dresses, and I feel like of all of the bridal shops that I went to, they had some of the best best stylist to help you find a dress that you would really, really love. The other boutiques that I went to did a good job, but I had to kind of like go through the racks and try to find styles that I was into. Whereas when I went to Blush, I told my stylist, hey, this is kind of what I'm into. I showed her pictures of dresses that I had tried on at the other boutiques that I had been considering getting, and she was like, I can do better. And I was like, okay, I guess. She did. She immediately did. The 3 dresses she had me try on were exactly what I wanted, and I went with the first dress she had me try on. So highly recommend if you're in the Austin area. I would definitely recommend them. They do book kind of far out for fittings, but I really liked them and I really liked the dresses that they had. Next question is, why did you pick this dress? So I'll insert a couple of pictures here of the different dresses that I tried on. I went to 3 different boutiques and I had kind of a vision of what I wanted from the beginning. I think I said earlier that I'm not the kind of girl who like planned my wedding from a young age. I kind of didn't know exactly what I wanted until I got on Pinterest and, you know, whatever, but I did kind of know what sort of wedding dress I wanted. I knew that I didn't want anything embellished or with lace. So something very simple, structured. I really like structure in a dress. My style tends to lean very classic, a little bit preppy, but also slightly modern. So I knew that I wanted something with like an architectural detail. So a lot of the dresses I tried on were simple, classic, and almost all of them were in a material called silk Mikado, which is a very stiff and heavy material. Not so heavy compared to something that's like entirely embroidered, but it is a very stiff material, which I wanted. I wanted something with structure that would make me feel held in a comfortable way all day. For reference, I have scoliosis and terrible posture, so I wanted something that would help me kind of sit up straight and look my best in pictures, right? So that was kind of the knowledge I had going into trying on dresses. Went to 3 different boutiques. First one was actually a designer's boutique, so a lot of wedding dress boutiques have a ton of different designers. This one was just for one designer. And it was actually a designer that I had pinned the most on Pinterest, so I was like, surely they're gonna have the dress of my dreams. When I went in store, I tried on, I wanna say like 3 or 5 different dresses, all stunning, all beautiful, all I think I would have enjoyed, but none of them were exactly what I was picturing. And the details specifically that I had thought, oh, this is what I want in a dream dress, were off the shoulder with like a little bit of a sweetheart neckline, a really cinched in waist. I didn't care if it was like A-line or ball gown, I just wanted a cinched waist for sure. And I really wanted, again, architectural detail, so like a big bow on the back or just something different, something unique. At that first place, like there were some dresses that fit the bill, but nothing that I felt like so attached to. So I took pictures, went to the second boutique, and the second boutique had more of what I was looking for, but just not the fabrics that I liked. So they had not as stiff satins, they had crepes, they had, you know, those sorts of materials, very thin, kind of loose, flowy materials in the shapes that I wanted. So we're getting closer. There was off the shoulder stuff, and there was one dress in particular that was in, again, one of those thinner materials, but otherwise had all the details I wanted, that I almost went with. After I tried that dress on, my mom, she was like, okay, we still need to go to the third boutique. And I was like, no, I want this dress now. We did end up going to the third boutique, and again, I had the best experience at Blush, and I found my dream dress. That leads me pretty well into the third question, which was, did you know this dress was the one, or did you have a hard time choosing? I was pretty certain when I tried on the first dress at the third boutique that it was going to be the dress for me. It fit the bill, it fit every little detail that I wanted, but I did try on a couple of other dresses at that boutique that I wasn't expecting to love that I totally did, and I was actually between my dress and this dress. I don't know, I was like going back and forth because I do think in some ways the body shape on the dress that I didn't go with was a little bit more kind of what I wanted, but the off the shoulder thing was just like, it was stuck in my head. It was something that I felt like I really, really wanted and needed, and that's why I went with the dress that I went with, and I couldn't be happier. Honestly, I don't regret that decision at all, which is funny because I think that's something that Haden asked me after the wedding. He's like, so I loved your dress, but you could go back, would you do something different? And he asked me that because I couldn't move much on my wedding day, and the answer still, I totally would have gone with that dress because it was just everything I wanted, and I didn't care if I was comfortable on my wedding day. I really didn't. I just wanted to like look hot. So I didn't have a super hard time choosing dresses, but if anything, I think I was happy with the way that the day went. I was nervous. Like, I think a lot of people are nervous going into trying on dresses and like worried about how they'll look and stuff. And I was worried that I wouldn't find what I wanted and that I wouldn't look how I wanted in the kind of dress that I wanted. But I was happy with my dress. I was happy how I looked in it. And yeah, that's pretty much all of the wedding dress questions. There is one question about bridesmaid dresses, and that was, did you make your bridesmaids pay for their dresses? The answer to that question is no. That was something that I felt really strongly about in the wedding planning process, and I think everybody handles this differently. I think you have to kind of know what sorts of stages of life your friends are in, and also I think you have to just consider how much time and effort it takes to be a part of someone's wedding. I knew going in that I didn't want my bridesmaids to pay for really anything. So I paid for their bridesmaid dresses, which were not very expensive. We got them off of Azazi. I think they were all under $100. I asked them to wear their own shoes that they felt comfortable in, just some like nude shoes, nude heels. Honestly, heels or flats, I didn't really give a shit. And then I also provided earrings for everybody. So yeah, it was something I felt strongly about. I think everybody's got their own like thing going on. I'm not trying to judge. If it's going to be a financial burden on you or the people in your wedding and it's just not doable, maybe consider like not doing the wedding party thing. I loved having a wedding party, but I don't think it's that necessary. And I think it can be a lot of unnecessary stress in a lot of situations. So to get back to your initial question, no, my bridesmaids did not pay for their dresses. And we also didn't do a bachelorette party because I also didn't want that added expense. So now getting into the other category of questions, which is where I'm going to answer the rest of the non-Haden related questions. Haden's going to come down in a second actually and answer some questions that y'all had for him. He has quite a few to answer. What were your floral arrangements? And I don't really know how to answer that because I did have florals in a lot of different places. I could not recommend Wild Bunches Floral enough. I'll again leave links to all of my vendors in the description, and I'll remind you again at the end of the video that that's what I'm going to do because I loved all of my vendors. The reason I love them so much is because I gave them just a couple of pictures from Pinterest and I was a little nervous, like would they be able to fulfill my vision? And they did. I mean, they 100% nailed what I wanted, which was organic and natural, but also really like full. I don't know, they just got me. They got me. So I did a lot of white florals with a lot of greenery. I don't remember all of the names of the flowers that were in my bouquet, but I did have white roses. I know I had some peonies in there, I think, and a little bit of eucalyptus, among other things. So that was for my bouquet and also for the arrangements on the tables. I had tall arrangements on some tables, short arrangements on others. I had a floral arch as well. One tip I would say for florals, and this is something that I didn't really think of a lot, my planner definitely guided me, was that you can reuse so much of your ceremony florals for your reception. So if you did, let's say like 2 columns with like 2 arrangements of flowers instead of a floral arch for your ceremony, you could use the same floral arrangements for tables, let's say. And so a lot of my florals were reused throughout the night. And I also liked it because while we had like talked about in advance like where all of the repurposed florals would go throughout the night, my planner and the florist like made really good decisions about where to put things that like I didn't even think about. So I feel like my floral budget went a lot farther than I thought that it would, because people just moved things around throughout the night and made everything look pretty depending on where we were at. So next question is, did you prioritize some things over other things? I'd say for me, there were like 3 main things that I found super, super important. Number 1 was photographer. I knew right after booking my venue who I wanted my photographer to be, so I reached out to her immediately and was like, Caitlin, hi, I love your work. Can you please be my photographer? And so I got to book my dream photographer. Comparing her rates though, honestly, with other people who do work similar to her, she was really reasonably priced and I feel like I got a lot for my money. So I definitely prioritized getting a good photographer, but I didn't actually have to like go over budget for that. Photographer number 1. Next was florals. Haven't always envisioned a wedding, but when I did envision a big wedding, I knew I wanted a lot of beautiful full florals. And I also really prioritized rentals, which are linens, table settings, and chairs. It made a really big difference. Next question is, did you decide to keep your last name and or did you consider having Haden take your last name? I went back and forth on this for a while. I asked y'all on Instagram, I think multiple times, for your opinions on what you did, what you thought was more feminist, because honestly, my initial thought was like, I don't want to get rid of my last name. I like my last name. I love my dad. And so being tied to my family, it was special to me. And I didn't relish the idea of like getting rid of a part of my identity. It did scare me, but I kept going back and forth. My initial thought was like, I'll just hyphenate, right? I'll take both of our last names. Haden was also cool with hyphenating his last name as well. He wasn't going to make me do it on my own. But the more that I thought about it and the longer, honestly, that the wedding planning process went on, I don't know, I felt called to just change my last name. I did not end up hyphenating, I just took his last name. I say just took his last name. I mean, it was a big deal. I did take his last name. And the second question is, did you consider having him take your last name? I did. I toyed around with that idea quite a bit as well, and he would have been totally fine with it. Haden's fucking awesome, right? Like, he is not the kind of guy to be like, you need to take my last name. You'll know him. He's not that kind of guy. Had someone come to my house to like service my AC or something like that, and I guess I was the one that set up the appointment under my name. and whenever they came over, they were calling Haden by my maiden last name. So basically my dad's name, you know what I mean? And that was really weird for me. My dad should be the only Mr. my old last name. It just did not feel right. And I wouldn't have known that honestly, unless I had that experience. I probably would have just had Haden take my last name, but I took his. His last name is like slightly rarer than my last name. It's the same length. It is not harder to say. So that was another thing. I think a lot of like people in their replies to me were like, whoever has the best last name, take that. And I was like, we both have really short last names that are kind of generic. Like, I don't know how to prioritize what's more important or like whose is cooler. Because I totally would have gone with a cooler last name if his had been cooler. I wouldn't have questioned it. But I think in the situation I was in, it definitely caused me to question things. And yeah, I don't know. I took his last name. I don't really have a good answer for it. I just think it makes things easier. I also did a lot of research too on the whole hyphenated thing. A lot of people were saying, I have a hyphenated last name from my parents and I fucking hate it. So I was like, okay. Did you wear extensions or grow your hair out for your wedding day? Did grow my hair out for my wedding day. My hair was, I would say like 3 or 4 inches longer than it currently is, and my hair's pretty long right now. I also used extensions for fullness. So my hair was actually the same length as my extensions. My extensions just helped to thicken my hair up because I knew that I wanted to have my hair down for my wedding day. Y'all don't see me with my hair up in videos very often because I really dislike it on me. I don't think it's cute. So yeah, I knew that I wanted my hair down, which proved a challenge for sure with the wind that happened on my wedding day. Next question is, did you do your own makeup? I did do my own makeup. I have a tutorial that I'll link in the description down below of how I did my wedding day makeup. I had a trial that went really well, but ultimately I decided I wanted to have control over that one part of my day, and I knew I would feel a lot more comfortable if I did my own makeup, so I did ultimately do my own makeup, and I feel like the pictures came out really well. I was actually kind of nervous because I didn't love the way my makeup looked in my engagement pictures, but I took a lot from those pictures. Better tones to use and like different ways to do my makeup that would like correct the issues I had with my makeup in my engagement pictures. Also, that's a really good tip. If you're not already doing engagement pictures with your wedding photographer, so you know, oh, this is how they edit. They edit things and that makes things look a little bit warmer, so I need to do a cooler toned blush. You know what I mean? Like, definitely do engagement pictures, do some trial makeup for engagement pictures, and then, you know, tweak from there. Okay, 2 more questions, and then I'll have Haden come down and answer his. First one is, did you work out before your wedding? And like, did you, do any sort of like diet or whatever to fit into your dress? No, I did not. Didn't want that pressure, honestly. I didn't feel like that was healthy, and that's just not really me, like at all. I do love exercise, I do love working out, but for the first half of 2022, I was in a really bad depressive state, and that was kind of one of my regrets, I guess, not trying harder to get help for that before my wedding day. And I think that's maybe part of the reason that I didn't feel as in the moment on my wedding day as I could have. I was feeling pretty depressed and pretty detached. I was able to enjoy the day, but like, I think I probably would have enjoyed it better had I found the right medication for me. I have a mental health condition that's like fairly hard to treat. All that being said, I didn't really work out before the wedding. I didn't really get any sort of physical activity. I wish I had. I think it would have been better for my mental health, but I also didn't want to put pressure on myself to like fit into a dress that was 3 sizes smaller than I was when I like tried on the dress. Do you know what I mean? So no, I didn't work out before my wedding. I didn't lose weight before my wedding. I actually gained weight before my wedding. I was still able to fit into my dress. Yeah, I don't know. I just think there's just such immense pressure on people to lose weight and to look a certain way before the wedding, and I see horrible things on TikTok, or I did before I blocked these people, on sign up for my pre-wedding diet plan, or, I am a personal trainer and I get people ready for their weddings. And I don't know, like, I do think, it makes sense people want to look their best on such a big and important day, but like, I don't think dieting and forcing yourself to get really, really skinny is the kind of stress you need before a really special day. Like, that's just not my thing. I didn't work out before the wedding. I think it would have been good for my mental health, and just like movement's important, but no, I didn't want to diet or like get skinny or like shred before the wedding. Ugh, no. And then the last question that y'all had for me was, did you go on a honeymoon? If so, where? I did share some pictures from our honeymoon on Instagram. We ended up going to a resort in Mexico that was absolutely stunning. I had been before with family and I was blown away by the beauty of it. It was in Cabo, Mexico. Food was just incredible. Like, everything about the resort was stunning, and I knew if I got the opportunity, I wanted to take Haden back there because I loved the food at this place, and I knew Haden would too. Lots of like fresh seafood and things like that, which I know he's, again, super into. Stunning. It was beautiful. It didn't rain at all when we were there. It was like in the 70s. It was sunny. There was a breeze. So we got to lay out on the beach comfortably. It was incredible, truly incredible. And since we literally never travel, I was like willing to save up to be able to afford to go here just once. Now after that vacation, Haden was like, okay, so can we go on a vacation again soon? Because this was awesome. This one also doesn't have battery. Okay, we gotta make it kind of quick.
It's fine with me.
Okay, so we got the man of the hour here to answer questions.
Man of the hour, my hour's gone.
The first question people have for you is, what was your favorite part of the wedding? It doesn't have to be anything about me.
Honestly, like when we were done taking all the pictures, I actually got to have fun and talk to people and, you know, dance and
Fair enough.
all that kind of stuff.
Next question, did you help plan the wedding?
I would say no.
Correct.
I would like to say that I, you know, had some part in it, and believe me, I offered many times to help you with anything that you wanted, but you didn't want it, so.
I think the only thing that, like, he could have technically helped with, if I hadn't had a planner, I might have made him reach out to vendors, because I don't really like talking to people on the phone, you know, doing, like, the sourcing for me, but since I had a planner, I didn't really need his help with anything. But I did ask his opinion on things along the way, like DJ versus band, that kind of thing. Next question was, did you have any strong preferences for the wedding? Like, anything that you felt like was a must-have?
No, so for me, for anyone who doesn't know, I worked somewhat in the wedding industry, like in the catering industry for a couple of years in college, and so I went to an insane number of weddings, or like worked at them, so I didn't really have any preferences of things that I wanted at my wedding, but I did have things that I did not want at my wedding, you know?
Like certain songs?
Mostly songs,
Yeah.
yeah, mostly songs, and then obviously there were a couple of other things, like, I'm trying to think of some examples, but I mean mostly like different kinds of signs and stuff like that I just thought were a little like lame, or like I didn't want to hand out sunglasses with our last name. I definitely did not want to have a wedding hashtag that was some
I felt
kind
strongly
of like
about that
play
too.
on our names.
I'm not a wedding hashtag girl, so.
There were a lot of things like that I didn't want, but I not really have anything that I wanted.
Yeah, I feel like me and you were on the same page about a lot of the things that you didn't like the hashtag, that sort of thing. A lot of the music stuff too. But I did, like he said, he did work in the wedding industry for a little bit, so I feel like if I had any questions or was on the fence about anything, I could go to him and be like, hey, are people gonna hate this? And he would give me like honest answers, so that was really helpful. Next question was, did you select the menu for the wedding?
I wouldn't say that I selected it at
No,
all.
so-
Like we went and just like tried this place, right?
So we got quotes from a few different caterers. We were going to go to a bunch of different tastings because tastings are usually free. We ended up loving the first place we went with. It was actually pretty easy. I only eat chicken and like poultry. Haden will eat anything. So he tried the beef option. I tried the chicken option. Yeah, I mean, we were able to like select things based off of that. It was nice because like if the beef option sucked, like he would have told me and we could have like, you know, picked something different. But he didn't select the menu, but he did help me. And especially for things that I didn't want or I didn't enjoy, but like I knew other people would like shrimp. Like I knew everybody loves shrimp, so like let's have a shrimp option for like appetizers, but I didn't want to eat that, so I trusted his judgment on like whether that would be good or not.
Yeah.
Next question was, did you gift each other anything on the wedding day? Any romantic wedding gifts?
I don't think so.
No, we didn't do that.
No.
I like had the idea to do that. I also considered like writing our own vows. I think that's one of the questions. I'll just answer that one now. We didn't do that.
Yeah, we considered it
Yeah.
for sure. I don't even know why we decided necessarily to do it or not to do it. I think it was just kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like all of the other things that we had to take care of for the wedding took precedent over that. And then by the time we like got close enough, we were like, well, I don't want to have to rush something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, you know, obviously, like, I want to be a writer, and, like, I like writing things, and the idea of writing something romantic to him sounded nice, but, like, I wrote him a lot of love letters and shit in high school, and, like, I don't know, it's not like, again, we haven't been together for very long, and, like, needed to write our own vows, or, like, get each other something special on our wedding day, make it even more special. It was just special that we were finally getting married, I feel like.
I'd be down to, like, do something like that maybe for, you know, like our anniversary or something like that.
I'm
when
definitely...
we have more time to just focus on
Yeah.
that.
And I just feel like that's our attitude about it in general. Like, the wedding was special, it was fun, it was beautiful, it was like what we wanted it to be, but I feel like our relationship's always been more important than the wedding. I didn't put this in my questions, but like it was a question that was asked was, did you pick your wedding date for a specific reason? Is that the anniversary you'll celebrate? And like didn't pick the wedding date for any particular reason. I mean, except for it was just convenient for our families. But like we've agreed that we're probably only gonna like really seriously celebrate our dating anniversary, which is in September. Just because, I don't know, I just feel like
it feels more special. I mean, we've been celebrating it for much longer at
like
this
12
point.
years.
Yeah, so it just feels...
It feels more special and like important to us, and Yeah, for us, like, our relationship is more about, like, the small everyday things than, like, these, like, big grand gestures or anything. Like, even the proposal, like, it was low-key, which is good. I wanted it to be. I'm not trying to call you out.
No, I mean, low-key to put it lightly.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. We didn't get each other any gifts, and we didn't write our own vows. What did you think when you saw me in my dress, and did my dress choice surprise you?
It did not surprise me, because I know you, and you talked about it at length.
Yeah, I told him I didn't want him to see me in it, but then I, like, kind of described to him what I was gonna go with.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised, but I was at the same time, because I don't know why, but I expected it to have more, I don't know, little, like, lace bits, or, like, you know, maybe a couple of bows or something here and there. So it was, like, much more, I don't know the word
simple,
to describe it. I guess simple than I was expecting, and, like, not in a bad way. It just, like, that part of it surprised me just a little bit.
It surprises me that surprised you, simply because I'm not like a sparkling.
Oh, I know you're not, and that's what I'm saying. I didn't think that it would be, like, sequined or anything like that, you know? But I thought, like, I feel like it's pretty typical, regardless of what kind of person you are, right, for your wedding dress to have a little bit of, like, lace or something somewhere, right? So it's not insane for...
Yeah, you to assume that, I guess.
Yeah, obviously I thought you were stunningly gorgeous. It was kind of, like, in awkward...
Yeah, so, okay, we did a first look, and I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but we did that instead of, like, him seeing me when I walked down the aisle. No, I think I did mention that. Anyway, that was heavily filmed and photographed, so it wasn't really an intimate, like, first moment with him.
It was, like, me standing on this, like, balcony thing, waiting there for, like, a couple of minutes, and it's, like, hot and, like, very windy.
So windy.
You know, it was, like, so windy. It's just, like, a bunch of people there, like, bunch of people that I don't know, and all of them have, like, regular cameras and video cameras in my face. And then...
He had to temper his reaction, I think. Like, not that you would have been, like, sobbing or anything, but you're just not the kind to, like, I don't know. I feel like you're very conscious when cameras are on you.
Yes, very much so, yeah. Like, even this is still kind of weird
for
to
you,
me.
Yeah. A lot of people ask this one, how did you know I was the one for you?
I wouldn't say that there's, like, a moment or, like, an individual thing, and I don't think that there should be. I think I just realized that you were the one because there was no other one. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't imagine spending my life with someone else. So I think that's like significant enough, you know? Like, we just over the years, obviously we've kind of like grown up together, you know?
I mean, we've been together since we were 16, so.
Yeah. And so we both just luckily grew in the same direction, which is another thing that I think some couples run into that, you know, start dating in like high school or middle school or something like that, is like eventually you do or can grow in different directions from each other. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, you know? Like, if you end up having to end a relationship that's long term like that you start with someone when you're both very young, I don't think that
it's a failure.
It's a failure, yeah, on anyone's part. Like, you guys can both grow into two different people that aren't necessarily compatible long-term for life, right? So we just happened to both grow in the same direction, and we learned how to communicate very well with each other.
That was a big one for us. Like,
huge.
I mean, we both have parents who are still married, but like, your parents aren't perfect, and I think we have already figured out that like our communication style is perhaps a little superior to our parents in some ways, and I just feel like it's really hard to find someone that you can be 100% honest with about like everything. You know, you don't have to like worry about like, oh, I don't know what they'll say, or like think about what I'm gonna say. Like, I don't have to filter myself at all. I can just like be honest with you, and I think for me that was like how I knew. I was like, I trust this guy, I can tell him anything. I'm like, I don't know, it's just like all the small moments. We're not big gesture people. It's not like, you know, we have this like, I don't want to say our relationship isn't passionate, but it's not like this is some like grand like romance novel sort of thing. It was just like, I don't know, like we like each other and we chose each other, and I don't think there is a one at all.
I honestly just think it's like, find someone who you can communicate well with, including like when things get hard or whenever you guys get in a disagreement about something. Find someone that you can and you know, you have to work on this with yourself too. It's not just all about like finding the other person who can match yours, right? But find someone who you can like actually talk to about things and not like yell at each other or like, you know, get like super upset if someone says something. Like, you gotta be able to just talk and communicate, and I think that that's like the most important thing for any long-term relationship to work. Yeah,
that's some unsolicited advice for you, but also just kind of how we figured out like how we were the one for each other, I guess. Yeah, there's no one, but you pick someone who you can work well with, and hopefully someone who like wants the same things out of life, and I think we mostly do. So that works. I think the last question is one that I just thought was funny. How do you feel about committing and staying loyal to one person forever?
And it's kind of how I've lived nearly half my life at this point, so...
Yeah.
And I don't really feel any particular way about it. Like, I don't think that it's going to be difficult for me personally, but I also understand people who don't feel that way, either in terms of it being difficult for them to do so, or that they just don't think that it's right for them.
Yeah, like I can understand it both ways for sure, but I have never felt like, oh, this is too hard, or even after getting married, I didn't like have a moment where I was like, wow, this is like scary, this is like forever, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, we were kind of already doing that, so
yeah, it's like,
it wasn't like a change really.
It shouldn't be hard. If you find the right person, then you will just want to spend your time with them, and like, obviously you can have friends and stuff outside of that.
You can have an open relationship, you can be polyamorous, like there's so many ways to live your life, so you know, just because you get married doesn't mean that you can't have like a non-traditional relationship if like a traditional marriage isn't for you, which isn't to say that that isn't for us, but I just think like people make marriage out to be something that's like scary, or something that is like, you know, the old ball and chain. I just think like previous generations did things so differently, and I think like marriage is becoming something like more interesting too as like time goes on, and like you can make it what you want. So no, I've never felt like, you know, I'm stuck.
It shouldn't be like that. Like, all you have to do is just find someone that you want to spend time with.
Yeah, and that like agrees to the same kind of relationship that you want to have, I think is pretty important. So yeah, got a relationship that works, I think. And now we're married.
For now.
Yeehaw. That's it, though. Those are all the questions that y'all had. This was an extremely long video, so thank you for sticking around for this entire thing if you did. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. Love y'all so much, and until next time.